Hello, everybody, and good afternoon from sunny old England. My name is Professor Rich, and today we're talking about cost of living. Try not to get too depressed. So, I think to start off, we could have a look at these questions and maybe have a little conversation. So, what is cost of living? Is the cost of living increasing in your country? What do you notice? And what do you think will happen in the future with cost of living, of course? So, hello Daisy, hello Mina, hello Manuel Gordillo, hello to Julia Hitata, and all of our regulars. Daisy says, Rich, why do you look like a boxer tonight? That's interesting. Do you mean the t-shirt? Just a sports t-shirt. I've worn this before for stream, I think. But I would love to do some boxing. I'm a big fan of boxing, both as a sport and as a spectator sport. What is cost of living? Manuel says, the cost of living in my country has been increasing nearly 9% for 2 years in a row. The cost of living in my country has increased, has increased nearly 9% for 2 years in a row, says Manuela Gordillo. Hint says, hello, Professor Rich. Hello there, Hint. How are you? Yes, definitely. The cost of living has increased 30%. The price of sale stuff are equal to the normal prices a year ago. Wow, in 1 year, Daisy, that is amazing. So the cost of living is basically what we pay for our lives. The cost of living is not the minimum level of living. That would be called subsistence, or sometimes it's called a living wage, is the amount you need to live. The cost of living is the cost of all things that people of all levels in society, if there are indeed levels in society, it's the cost of everything for everyone. So if you're earning £10,000 a year, then your rent goes up and the price of bread goes up. But if you're earning £1 million per year, then the price of your Ferrari goes up, the price of your mansion goes up, right? So the cost of living is the cost of your life at any particular level. It is not the minimum cost of living. It's the cost of living depending on the person. That's how cost of living works. Important to establish that. So let's move on and have a little activity, as we like to start with activities. I've got some excellent British English phrases relating to finance and cost of living. So I want to ask you in the chat, what do these phrases mean? We've got numbers 1 to 5. And the phrases are feel the pinch, make ends meet, tighten one's belt, pay through the nose, and cost a bloody fortune. Feel the pinch, make ends meet, tighten one's belt, pay through the nose, and cost a bloody fortune. So what do you think these UK phrases mean? Shrinking products. That's quite advanced, Daisy. You're absolutely right, though. Products are shrinking. Daisy's noticed her shampoo bottle has got smaller. One thing that I noticed while I was in Vietnam was that the price of shampoo in general was quite expensive, actually, especially women's shampoo. It's about the same price as women's shampoo here, maybe a little cheaper. That's obviously quite expensive for Vietnam. So in Vietnam, I guess women's shampoo is kind of a luxury item. Yeah, I would hate that too, Daisy, because, yeah, I'm sure it's not that expensive to make. I think they're just ripping you off. So Manuel is saving us here with a definition for make ends meet. And he says, you barely have any money. You're just scraping by. Just scraping by. Another excellent phrase there from Manuel. And while you guys have a go at that, let's have a look at the results of our poll. So I did a poll at the start of class and I said, are you feeling the pinch? 52% say yes, 28% say what, and 19% say no. So if you're not feeling the pinch, congratulations. You might see that there is a little icon below chat with a $sign. Please click that icon now and you can, of course, donate. You can, of course, contribute correctly money to Professor Rich using the little dollar button by the chat now. Okay, so feel free to press that little dollar button if you're not feeling the pinch. If you are feeling the pinch, please don't press that dollar button, okay? If you are feeling the pinch, then welcome to the club. And Alexander says, I cannot donate from Russia. Biden! Never mind. Never mind. So I'll talk about the meaning of some of these and I'll give you the definition now that you've had a go. Feel the pinch means feel the pain of increased costs. Make ends meet means earn enough money to survive. We can also say get by. I'm trying to get by. I'm just about getting by. Tighten one's belt means cut your expenses or cut your outgoings. Pay through the nose means pay a lot, maybe too much for something. And cost a bloody fortune, of course, means it's very expensive. It costs a fortune, or it cost a fortune. It was very expensive. So there's our lovely UK phrases for the day. And this is the plan for the class today. So we are talking about the cost of living crisis. Today we're going to chat about the cost of living and learn UK phrases for cost. We've done it. Okay, and next we're going to practice. Oops. Did you know that practice as a verb is with an S, but practice with a noun is with a C, and the pronunciation is identical. So we're going to practice with an S, statistics vocabulary. Then we're going to analyze graph trends, and then we have time for questions. So that's our plan for the day. And I will have a little discussion as well after we've done some analysis about economics and what causes all this, because I think Daisy has got some expertise in this area and she's going to teach us all why the world's gone crazy. Okay, so let's move on to the next activity. We are looking here at some sentences that describe trends. Have a look at the sentences. Can you guess the missing words? These are all sentences that describe trends in a graph. So put your answers in the chat, please. You have 5 minutes for this. And while you try that, I will have a talk with the people in the chat. Wow, my countdown timer is really not working at all. Great. Damn it, countdown timer. All right, I give up. Four minutes left. 4 minutes left. All right, Pallavi says, I have to go, teacher. All right, Pallavi, I know you have to study. You can watch it later, please. Watch it later. Hello, Domenico says, Rich, the increasing cost of living is like that pesky individual who keeps knocking on your door asking for more cookies. Who knocks on your door asking for cookies? Picture the situation. You go on about looking for a flat and you find it. Picture the situation. You go on about looking for a flat and you find it. I'm a bit confused by the picture the situation. You go on looking for a flat part, Domenico. I'm also confused as to why someone's knocking on your door asking for cookies. You mean like Halloween? So Manuel's gone for saw a snoop increase. That's not right, unfortunately, Manuel. Not a Snoop. It's not Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg. No, not Snoop Dogg. So Julia's gone for number 4. She said fluctuates wildly. Not quite. Oh, you corrected it. Fluctuates widely. Yes, well done. Good job, Julia. We've got Kashata saying remains steady. That's good. Good job, Kashata. Daisy says number 1, steep increase. Steep, sharp. But steep is okay, actually. We could say steep as well. So a steep increase or a sharp increase. Very good. Petrol's been in global decline. Well done, Daisy. And finally, number 6. Has anyone got number 6? Oh, yeah. Anouat got it. Hit a new low. And peaked. Did anyone get peaked? Peaked. No one got peaked. Peaked. When it reaches the top bit. All right. So, I'm going to show you a little graph here. This is going to be inflation. Do you know inflation? Inflation means your money is worth less money. So if I have £2, here I have £2. And let's say £1 gets 1 loaf of bread. That means with £2, I can buy 2 loaves of bread. Hooray! Now, inflation is when more money comes into the world. So, for example, someone else comes along with another £1, and the shopkeeper says, "Oh, people have more money now. So really, a loaf of bread is not £1 anymore because there's more pounds about. So now a loaf of bread is £1.20, which means with my £2, I can only buy one loaf of bread and 80 pence change." And that basically is inflation. The very basic version of it. And we can see here inflation in the UK. So, another way of seeing inflation is if you have here at this point in March 2021, if you have £1,000 in the bank, then 1 year later or 2 years later, at November 2022, your money can only buy what before you could buy for about £900. So it's like this here means that you lose £100. It's like someone took £100 from your bank in that time. That's basically how inflation works. A bit more complicated, but basically it's something like that. So obviously inflation is a bad thing, because if someone comes up to you on the street and says, "Give me your money," and takes £100 from you, you're not going to be happy. So when you see 10% inflation, then probably you're not going to be happy. So now we've talked about that, let's describe this graph. I'm going to read 3 sentences, and I want you to type the words you hear. If you're watching this after the stream, then you can write the words you hear, get a notepad and a pen. If you want to do that, pause the video now, and then when I say the phrases, try to write the words you hear. Okay? Yes, Daisy, a loaf of bread costs £1 or more. Yeah, I know a baguette is cheaper in Vietnam. Yep. Yeah, you can pay a lot more than £1 for a loaf of bread now. I saw a pizza in the supermarket, not cooked, right? A pizza in the fridge in the supermarket that you have to cook, £6.50. That's about $8 US. $8. That's about 220,000 VND. Maybe a little less, 200,000. $8 for a pizza that you have to cook, not takeaway. Crazy. Right. Here we go. Number 1. Between March 2021 and November 2022, UK inflation rose sharply, peaking at about 11%. Between March 2021 and November 2022, UK inflation rose sharply, peaking at about 11%. Well done, Anawat. Good job. Inflation rose sharply, peaking at about 11%. He got the important bit. Okay, once more. Between March 2021 and November 2022, UK inflation rose sharply, peaking at about 11%. All right, so that's the answer to number 1 there. Very good hint. That's almost perfect, even. You can compare what you wrote to the answer there. Compare what you wrote. This is a really good activity to improve your active vocabulary. So, although it seems like this is a good activity for listening comprehension, and it is, it's actually better for your active vocabulary, because it shows you how you express yourself compared to me. And then you can think about, is that better? Do I prefer that? Do I like it? Do I want to change how I speak a little to be like that? You don't have to, but you could. See, for example, Domenico has said inflation grew sharply, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, actually. It's absolutely fine. But it gives Domenico a little choice. Then he can think, oh, that's interesting. I said grew, but the answer, the original words were rise. So maybe I have both options. All right. Let's go to number 2. Between September 2012 and what? Between September 2013 and 2021, UK inflation remained relatively stable between 0 and 3%. From September 2013 until 2021, UK inflation remained relatively stable between 0 and 3%. Once more. From September 2013 until 2021, UK inflation remained relatively stable between 0 and 3%. That's exactly it, Daisy. I know what, that's almost right. Just got a slight issue with the grammar. Small problem with one of the verbs. So there's the answer. There is a mistake in that. There. That should be 2013. A lot of people had a bit of an issue with the grammar there, the form of remain. It is the past and it's finished. Although you can use the present here, actually, in context. If we're talking about describing the graph and you use present, 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 then in context, that could sound okay. Like, if we're looking at this graph, then we can see it remains relatively stable here, and then it goes up here. Right, so see, I was using present simple there, so you can. Right. And number 3. Inflation hit its lowest point at the start of 2015, dipping marginally below zero at times. Inflation hit its lowest point at the start of 2015, dipping marginally below zero at times. If you think about that, by the way, it's really weird. Inflation hit its lowest point at the start of 2015, dipping marginally below zero at times. So if inflation is below zero, that means that money becomes more valuable. Money becomes more valuable. So it's very strange. Kind of has this idea that, like, if you take a loan, does the bank pay you back more money? Or you have to pay back less money at the end of the loan? Very weird to think about. I know that when it was about zero, they were panicking about it. There was a big panic. So here comes the answer to the last one. I'll just show you all of the answers there. Does anyone have any questions about this language to describe the graphs? I can show you here the language we've focused on is a sharp increase, remain relatively steady or stable, and hit a low. Hit a low. Only the banks panic when inflation is below zero, Rich. Yeah, well, the banks panicked, but actually the politicians panicked because they kind of support the banks, and yeah. Also, retailers panic because I think, is it a thing that when inflation's below zero? No, I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, maybe you're right, Daisy. Just the banks and the politicians. And the journalists, because the journalists do whatever the politicians want them to do. Because they want to be part of the elite club. You see, I've got more and more anti-journalists over the years. I really just have no respect for anyone who does that profession at all. I was a journalist. For you guys who don't know. After I did philosophy, I passed my journalism qualification. The NCTJ, National Council for the Training of Journalists. It's a dirty business. Right. Any questions? What does it mean, hit a low? Hit a low just means it hits a low point, hint. It's kind of the opposite of reach a peak. So hit a low is kind of the opposite of reach a peak. And this is how I normally write that. Hit a low is the opposite of reach a peak, like that. Right. Let's have a look at the graph here. So this is the UK house price change. It's the percentage annual change in house prices. So how much will a house price change over 12 months on average? Interesting graph. I would like you to type in the chat phrases to describe the features of this graph. Reach or reach up, Rich? Relating to what? Oh, reach a peak. Just reach. Reach a peak. Reach a peak. It reaches a peak, not reach up. Reach up is when you reach with your hand, specifically you reach up to take something. That's reach up. Oh, I'm reaching up to take this thing. But the graph does not reach up. The graph reaches a peak. All right, guys, focus on the lesson. This is not a competition, okay? A nice friendly time here. No, it's not dollars, Daisy. It's percentage. It's percent. Percent. So it's the average annual percent. So Julie Hattar says UK house price hit a low in July 2018. What? No. Yeah, that's more like it, Anawat. Yeah. So UK house prices hit a low point or hit a low in December 2009. I think that's about right. I would say about 2009. So in 2009, UK house prices hit a low. It was part of a world economic crisis, Alexander, but it was slightly more complicated than that. It's because the banks became very relaxed about giving people big mortgages. So they gave a lot of people big mortgages, and then lots of people couldn't pay their mortgages. And you even had people with 2 mortgages who couldn't pay their mortgages because they got a mortgage and then got another mortgage, bought a house to rent it, and then they couldn't find anyone to rent their house. They lost their job, and it was a big disaster. Lots of people couldn't pay their mortgage. And if people can't pay their mortgage, then the banks don't get their money, which means the banks can't give more mortgages, which means no one can buy a house because the banks can't give a mortgage. And if no one can buy a house, that means the house price goes... Hello, Risa Fukara. It doesn't matter who was in charge, Alexander. It was just towards the end of Labour, but it's all the same. This is not a national government issue, because the same thing happened in Spain and the United States. So what's the point in talking about the national government? This is a global thing. It's the banks, and it's the governing bodies of the banks, and it's the supranational institutions and groups that set these rules, make these decisions. I like this from Daisy. The price of house prices fluctuated between December 2009 and July 2021. I would probably say, because the thing is, there's a sharp rise there, Daisy. So I'm not sure that's where I would describe fluctuation. I would probably go from about 2011 onwards. The prices fluctuated with some interesting features that we could describe. Yeah, Italy as well. Yeah, but it wasn't a total global crisis, Alexander. There was no property crash in Vietnam in 2008. So there's a bit more to it, isn't it? Yeah, they're sucking you in, Daisy, using exactly the same model that they used in the West throughout the 90s and the 2000s. And in about 20 years, you'll have massively overinflated property prices and you'll get a crash, almost certainly. It's a great way for the banks to make lots of money and make houses a lot more expensive than what they should be. Vietnam definitely is a market economy. They might claim that it's a communist government with a controlled economy, but that's nonsense. The only way that they actually control that economy is with taxes, basically. And they put very high taxes on imports. But other than that, it's not like some other countries where they really do control it. There's a lot of, I don't want to say capitalist because capitalist is not a useful word. There's a lot of free market principles going on in Vietnam. You would be surprised. I suggest you visit. There's a definite emerging middle class. And you can see it. And you can see the way they're working. And they look just like the middle class here in the 70s and 80s. Families buying their apartment, buying their car, dressing in a certain way. It's so similar. It's so similar. It's so weird. What happens when the economy of a country is stagnated and they're facing inflation? Well, I'm not an expert, Kashata. But that's what's happening now, isn't it? Okay, fair enough, Alexander. That's true. Yeah, you're right. The rural area is very poor. Yeah, which is interesting, isn't it? Because here in England, the rural area is very rich, super wealthy. If you want a house in the country in England, you better be a millionaire. You better be a millionaire. Because your house is going to cost you £500,000 at the cheap end. If you want a good house, it's going to cost you a lot. All right, let's move on. That's enough about house prices. So now I'm going to show you a very interesting graph. This is a poll. It's a survey. It's a survey of the opinions of British people. And the question is, what is the most important issue to you today? Okay, so what's the most important issue? And it's a political poll. So basically, when you're thinking about the country, the UK, what is the most important issue? And I don't have all the issues on here because there were lots. So I've just chose 4 of the main ones. They are Brexit, the economy, immigration, and health. Brexit, the economy, immigration, and health. And you can see some very interesting trends here. So, in the chat, can you describe any of these trends? That's an interesting way of putting it, Daisy. Asian immigrants are sucking wealth from Europe and bringing it back to their countries. Where did you read that? The use of the verb sucking there makes Asian immigrants sound very bad. And then you said, how come European citizens are feeling the pinch? Not just European citizens, anyone who lives here right now is not just feeling the pinch, but it's painful. Very painful. Maybe it'll get more painful as well. Yeah, maybe it's a cycle, Risa. That's what some small minded European people said. Well, it's interesting, Daisy. I've never heard anyone say that. That sentence you said, that Asian immigrants are sucking wealth from Europe and bringing it back to their countries. I've never heard anyone say that, ever. I've heard other things about immigrants from certain countries doing certain things, but I've never heard anyone say that. So I don't know where you found those people. I think the general perception of Asians is that they tend to be quite honest and hardworking. And very often, Asians actually want to settle. So if you get people from Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, they don't want to go back. They want to be European. Quite often, not always. Quite often. It's really weird, Daisy. I don't know where you heard that. I mean, that's an incredibly bigoted thing for someone to say, and I totally, totally disagree with it. Totally disagree with it. I think that, okay, personal opinion, not speaking as a language expert. I personally think that we do need to be very careful with immigration. I think that the UK has had too much immigration, and now we have a lot of problems in our society because of that. And I think everyone can see that. It might be very controversial for people to discuss it. You know, I'm in amongst this. I teach a whole range of cultures in the UK. I teach asylum seekers, refugees, and people from all over the world here in the UK. Right? So I'm well within the multicultural realm. I know what's going on, and I know what my students think about it as well. So a lot of people can recognize it, that maybe there's an issue with our immigration. But if I could choose certain immigrants, I think immigration from East Asia actually tends to be quite positive. I don't see many issues. I know that's a bit of a weird thing to say as well. Maybe I'm kind of biased towards East Asians, maybe because, my fiance is one. But yeah, I tend to find East Asians very pleasant, polite, and quite adaptable to British society. Not like they try to impose, but instead they sort of follow the rules. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. I think East Asians are quite good at that. Most of them, anyway. So that's an interesting comment, Alexander. Middle Asian invested a lot as well. What do you mean, invested a lot? Can you explain invested? So we have Kashata says, from December 2020 to October 2023, Brexit has inflated, not just Brexit, it's people's interest in Brexit. People's interest in Brexit. And actually, it didn't inflate. It went down. I think you're confused about which one is Brexit. Brexit is the light blue, not the dark blue. Interest in health peaked in April 2020. Yes. And from then on, it's been on a roller coaster. Very good, Manuel. So why did interest in health peak in 2020, Manuel? Finance, property, football clubs, commerce. Oh, yeah, I'm totally against that, by the way. I'm 100% against that. I think no foreign investment. Vietnam kind of has that, even though I know there's a lot of Chinese investment now. But they try to make it difficult for foreign investment. And I'm totally against foreign investment. Or at least foreign ownership. I think that the citizens of a country should own the things in the country. End of story. Otherwise, why have a country? And remember, everybody, when Professor Rich gives his personal opinion, that is not expertise, that's just his personal opinion. In a communicative language class, sometimes the teacher gives his personal opinion as a person, as an individual. It's quite funny, actually. I was having a class the other day and one of my students bravely disagreed with me. And I think she was right. I got something wrong about the Roman Empire. And I still need to investigate it, but I'm pretty sure she was right. And I was kind of giving my opinion about the Roman Empire. But it was good. It was really good and very brave of her as well. That's one of the reasons why I'm often hesitant to give an opinion as the teacher, because even when I say it's just my opinion, I think students find it very difficult to disagree with the teacher. But I encourage it. It's good. It's good to disagree with the teacher. And any teacher who tells you otherwise, well, I would be concerned about the way that they teach. Country with foreign investments are poor, e.g. North Korea. North Korea is an interesting example because North Korea obviously has a number of factors which make that not a very nice place to live. And I think you'll find that many countries with a lot of foreign investment are also very poor. For example, countries on the African continent that have a lot of Chinese investment. So I don't think that that's a useful comparison. Another thing, the thing to consider here, Alexander, is, look, I guess you're an economist, or you're into the economy, so probably you're more of an expert than me. So really it's just my opinion and you know more about this. But my inclination, which I agree is not expertise, it's just my feeling. So it's just my instinct, my intuition on this, is that property prices would be a lot more affordable if only British people could own property in Britain. Like, maybe I could buy a house. Whereas now, actually, I don't think I will ever buy a house in my life in the UK. Never. It's impossible. Right? I had a look at the mortgage that I would be offered and how many years. It's like I'll be working till I'm 75 for one and paying it off till I'm 75. And the house I get will be a small 1-bedroom house in a bad area. And my wage is good. My wage is good. I'm not on the poverty line, you know. I'm not working at Sainsbury's for £9 an hour or whatever. So what do those people do? People who work in shops or warehouses. They're never going to get a house. Ever. It's really a big problem. And a lot of houses are owned by letting companies which are owned by foreign investment. And that is hurting the people in the country. It's hurting them. Yeah, I know, Alexander. I agree. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to do it by marrying someone from another country. So, yeah. We are actually going to become part of that country. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Because it's the only option. It's not that I can do it. It's the only possibility. I want the real estate market to crack, Daisy. I want it to completely crash. Honestly. If I could, I would be if I thought there was a possibility it was going to crash, I'd be praying every day for a crash. And I don't mean the 2008 crash. I mean a real crash. A real crash. So it's really interesting, isn't it? Obviously here we had the pandemic kicked in. And over here we had an upswing in economy. People suddenly concerned about economy. Because people started to feel the pinch. People started to feel the pinch. And we noticed something interesting here as well with it looks like concerning immigration as being gradually rising, and there's a possibility that it will overtake health. And by the way, our health service is in a horrible state. It is a disaster. I mean, dirty hospitals. Dirty hospitals. Dirty hospitals in the UK. Okay. All right. I knew this one would get spicy. Talking about the economy and money, it always gets intense. All right, brilliant. Oh, okay. Are we on to this? I wanted to do one more thing, actually, before we go on to that. I want to do a little dictation. A little dictation. Actually, no, we're not. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. Don't want to do it. Too tired. Let's go on, have a look at the homework task. So this is a homework task from last Saturday. The homework is go outside. It doesn't matter if it's night or day. Look up at the sky, not at the sun, please. Set a timer for 3 minutes. And then I want you to just look at the sky. And then afterwards, please record an audio for 2 minutes describing your experience. How do you feel? How did it look? What did you notice? Were you bored? Did you hate this homework? Did you like this homework? Any thoughts you can think of. If it helps, make yourself a nice strong coffee and put some sugar in it to give you a big pick-me-up, and then move on, record that audio and get right into it. All right, so that's our homework for next Saturday. And we're on to questions. And here we have the link for the notes today. Let's have some questions. Yeah, that's right, Hints. One of the worst things for inflation is currency printing. And that was one of the biggest examples of that was 1930s Germany, when they had something called hyperinflation. And it was absolutely horrendous. Well, the thing is, Alexander, people owned houses before mortgages existed. Because a house costs £20,000. You know, a house would cost maybe 100% of your annual salary, right? And you can save up 100% of your annual salary in maybe 5 or 10 years. Right? But now the cost of a house is like 500% of your annual salary for a bad house. And that's because of mortgages. All right, Kashata, enjoy your gym session. It's lovely to have you here. See you again soon. To be honest, Alexander, you do seem to know more about this than me, though. So I feel like I'm arguing with an expert. Save where in banks or under the pillow? Under the pillow, for sure. For sure. Screw the banks. Most of my savings right now are in gold. Most of my savings right now are in gold. It was Bitcoin, but I sold my Bitcoin at the right moment. But now we have that option, you know, Bitcoin, gold, there's options. Don't need the banks. Manuel, that's not the Orient. If you're talking about the horrible situation in Israel and Palestine, well, Israel really, but now in Palestine as well, because there's retaliation. That is a really horrible situation. I'm definitely not going to talk about it. It is just the worst thing you can possibly imagine. We're now in a world where all of this stuff, if you want to see videos of that, you can see videos of it. It's absolutely horrendous, sickening. It makes you question your humanity. And it's not the Orient though. That would be, Israel, Palestine, the Gaza Strip, that kind of stuff. Grids on windows, Alexander. What do you mean grids on windows? What, you mean like metal security bars? No, we have no metal security bars. The thing about the UK, Alexander, is there's a lot of surveillance, and burglary is one of the most harshly punished crimes. Like, if you get convicted of burglary, they really hammer you. You know? I'm talking like 30 years in prison. And they will find you because there's cameras everywhere. So unless you're really, really, really good, then you won't get away with burglary. And so it's not really a massive issue here. But if people do have security, then yeah, they don't put bars on the windows. Domenico says, after getting comfortable in La Paz, I'm thinking about investing in a house. Yeah, I thought about that like 20 years ago, Domenico. There used to be 15,000 euros for a house in the Yucatan. Could you explain overwhelming? Overwhelming means it's too much for me to handle. I can't handle it. It's too much. So, too much to handle, or cope, or manage, or bear. I can't deal with that amount of something. I can't deal with that amount of something. Can't deal with that amount. It's overwhelming. Got an overwhelming amount of work to do, for example. What about underwhelming? Well, underwhelming is very different. Very different. Underwhelming actually means worse than I expected, or not very good. Well, yeah, worse than I expected. Rubbish when I thought it would be good. So you could talk about a film you went to see and it was very underwhelming. Protest at the Labour conference. I don't know about this. I don't read the news, Alexander. I find it kind of depressing. Let's have a look. True democracy is citizen-led. Huh? Electoral reform. Oh, proportional representation. Well, actually, I agree with proportional representation. Yeah, I'm all about proportional representation. I don't agree with what he says. Well, actually, I do agree with with what he says about the Labour Party. Yeah. But, yeah, proportional representation would be great. Well, don't know about great, but it'd be better. Better than what we have. First past the post sucks. No political talks in class. So, Manuel, I don't think he's doing political talk there. He's just talking about the news. I mean, this is not a binary, is it? It's a scale. And there's certain topics which we could say are politically charged. And then I have to draw a line. But just talking about a protester at a conference, it's not really an issue. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up anyway because I've got things to do today, folks. Thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and send me a super chat using the little $ there below. So, thank you very much, everybody. And I will see you on Saturday, hopefully. Have a lovely, lovely day. Lovely, lovely day. All right. Catch you later. Bye-bye now.